in the lap of the mighty Himalayas.
Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Preeti Kaur. Coming up in the next 1 hour, Qatar and France broker deal to get aid and medication to civilians and hostages in Gaza. US welcomes the announcement. Pakistan says Iran violated airspace after its missile targeted 2 terrorist bases, killing 2 children. Warns that incident could have serious consequences. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi to inaugurate important infrastructure projects related to ports, shipping and waterways sector in Kerala. And energized Indian squad is all set to finish the last T20 series before the ICC Men's T20 World Cup in style, as men in blue will take on Afghanistan today. Let's get you updates on Israel-Hamas conflict first. Israel and Hamas have reached a deal to allow more humanitarian aid into Gaza. Under the deal brokered by Qatar and France, urgent medication will be provided to hostages held by Hamas. In return, Israel will allow more humanitarian and medical aid into Gaza. The mediating countries said that aid would leave Qatar for Egypt on Wednesday before being taken across the Rafah border crossing. The International Committee of the Red Cross will coordinate the aid on the ground. The United States welcomed the Gaza aid agreement. National Security Council spokesperson Adrian Watson said the Biden administration welcomed the announcement by Qatar on the deal to deliver medicines to hostages held in Gaza by Hamas. The Israeli army released a video on Tuesday showing another Hamas tunnel under Gaza's main north-south highway. Part of the footage was captured by a body cam mounted on a soldier going through a tunnel and walking around underground structures. The IDF says the tunnel was used by Hamas gunmen to travel between north and south of Gaza undetected. The route, which stretches for hundreds of meters and is approximately 9 meters deep, was used by Hamas for transfer of terrorists from northern to southern Gaza. Israelis released from captivity in Gaza reconvened on Tuesday to hold a solemn first birthday ceremony for the infant of a family still held hostage. Kifir Bibas was 8 months old when Hamas stormed Kibbutz Nir Oz on October 7th as part of a cross-border killing spree in southern Israel. Kifir became the youngest of around 240 people taken back to the Gaza Strip as captives. Kifir would turn 1-year-old on Thursday, at which point he would have spent a third of his life as a hostage. The U.S. military carried out new strikes in Yemen on Tuesday against anti-ship ballistic missiles in a Houthi-controlled part of the country. The White House said additional U.S. strikes on Tuesday took out ballistic missiles Houthis were ready to launch. During the strikes, one of the missiles struck a Greek-owned vessel in the Red Sea. Attacks by Iran-allied Houthi terrorists on ships in the region since November have affected companies and alarmed major powers. France, on its part, clearly said that it chose not to take part in the US-led strikes because it wants to avoid a regional escalation. President Macron said the country has a defensive approach in the Red Sea and would stick to his stance. Meanwhile, in a bid to cut off their funding and supply of weapons, US President Joe Biden's administration plans to put Houthi rebels back on a US list of terrorist organizations. Meanwhile, the United States has clearly said that they do not expect their strikes on Yemen's Houthi rebels to eliminate the threat posed by the group in the Red Sea. Country's National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said this at the World Economic Forum on Tuesday. He stressed that this goes way beyond being a regional challenge, as it is regarding vital artery of the global commerce.
We mobilized a coalition of countries to take strikes to degrade the Houthis' capabilities so their ability to mount sustained and complex attacks becomes more difficult over time. But we did not say when we launched our attacks, they're going to end once and for all, the Houthis will be fully deterred. We anticipated the Houthis would continue to try to hold this critical artery at risk, and we continue to reserve the right to take further action, but this needs to be an all-hands-on-deck effort.
Moving on, Pakistan said that neighboring Iran has violated its airspace, resulting in the death of 2 children. The reaction came hours after Iranian missiles targeted 2 bases of terrorist group Jaish-e-Adl on Tuesday. Islamabad warned that the incident could have serious consequences and was completely unacceptable in a statement released by Pakistan's Foreign Office spokesperson. They lodged a protest with Tehran, and the head of the Iranian mission in Islamabad had been called to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. On Monday, Iran's elite Revolutionary Guards attacked targets in Iraq and Syria with missiles. Jaish-e-Adl has previously mounted attacks on Iranian security forces in the border area with Pakistan. Let's get to updates on Russia-Ukraine war now. 2 Russian missiles struck a residential area in the center of Ukraine's Kharkiv on Tuesday. The official said that the attack injured 17 people, badly damaging homes. Fires were extinguished in 2 buildings, while other buildings, including residential, sustained damage. Emergency services shared images of rescue teams tackling fires, piles of smashed building materials, and ascending ladders to damaged upper stories. The teams were also searching through piles of rubble to establish if others were injured. The city's mayor said there were 2 powerful explosions and said at least 10 dwellings had been damaged. Russian President Vladimir Putin said it was impossible to take away from Russia the military gains it had made in Ukraine on Tuesday. Further, he said ideas put forward by Ukraine were prohibitive formulas for the peace process.
As for negotiations process, it is an attempt to make us refuse those gains we have achieved for last 1.5 years. It is impossible. Everyone understands it is impossible, and they, the Ukraine ruling circles, understand it, and Western elites understand it. Everyone understands. These so-called peace formulas that being discussed in Ukraine and in the West are the extensions, the continued implementation of Ukraine's president decree that prohibits holding negotiations with Russia. That is what it is. These are prohibitive demands for negotiation process.
Meanwhile, the Russia-Ukraine conflict was also discussed at length at the World Economic Forum underway in Davos. Addressing the forum, Polish President Andrzej Duda said that the country needs NATO's support to secure airspace and strengthen security.
Moją obecność tutaj na forum ekonomicznym w Davos
I told the Secretary General that an incident with a Russian rocket entering Polish airspace shows a clear necessity to strengthen Poland's security. The presence of systems guarding our skies, our airspace. I remind you that we are in the process of building a 3-layered air defense and missile defense system in our country. But the system is under construction. Today we need support, and that's what we discussed.
wleciała w naszą przestrzeń powietrzną.
On the sidelines of the World Economic Forum, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said that it is very important for the 27-member bloc to unanimously approve the debated financial aid for war-torn Ukraine.
I think it's very important to engage with all 27 member states of the European Union to get the 50 billion euro for 4 years for Ukraine up and running. And this is the phase we're in right now. It's a preparation for the extraordinary European Council on the 1st of February. It's hard work. We have discussed many different issues. For me, it's very important, and my personal priority is to have an agreement by 27. If this is not possible, we are prepared for an agreement by 26, but I strongly support and prefer an agreement by 27.
Hungary has opposed EU's efforts to revamp its budget to channel 50 billion euros to Kyiv. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban said the European Union should help Ukraine, but not by diverting resources from the bloc's budget on Tuesday. Orban added that any financial facility for Ukraine should be separate from the EU budget. Hungary's proposal for creating such a mechanism was based on allocating aid on the basis of gross national income. Polish truckers have agreed to suspend a protest on Tuesday that has been blocking border crossings with Ukraine since November. Poland's infrastructure minister, Dariusz Klimczak, said the hauliers will suspend their protest until March 1st after signing an agreement with the government. The truckers will stop their blockade on Wednesday while they hold further negotiations with the ministry in order to reach a final deal by 1st of March. Polish drivers had been demanding that the European Union reinstate a system whereby Ukrainian companies need permits to operate in the bloc, and the same for European truckers entering Ukraine. The Polish drivers warned that they would return to the border crossings if the infrastructure ministry failed to fulfill its pledges. Following his address at the World Economic Forum, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky attended the opening of an exhibition at Ukraine House in Davos on Tuesday. Zelensky greeted and hugged children at the event. Zelensky and Polish President Andrzej Duda toured the exhibition, in which 4 contemporary Ukrainian artists depict Ukraine through a series of video portraits and stories. The exhibition portrays Ukrainians as they defend freedom, endure losses, and achieve victories. French President Emmanuel Macron plans to visit Ukraine in February to finalize a bilateral security guarantee deal involving the delivery of advanced weaponry. Macron added some 40 Scalp long-range missiles and several hundred bombs would be delivered in the coming weeks. France has already delivered about 50 Scalp missiles, 3 times as far as Ukraine's existing missile capacities. Further, Macron also said that Europeans would ramp up their support for Ukraine in the coming weeks. France's defense ministry on Tuesday stated that Ukraine's defense minister will be in Paris on Thursday. In the Serbian capital of Belgrade, thousands of opposition supporters rallied peacefully in an anti-government protest that in fact aimed at demanding the annulment of last month's elections, which were described by international observers as unfair. The rally was also staged to mark the 6th anniversary of the killing of Olivier Ivanovic, a moderate Kosovo Serb politician. Ivanovic was gunned down in front of his party office in 2018 in the ethnically divided town of Mitrovica. The opposition says it also wants the annulment of elections in Belgrade, which ended inconclusively and are seen by many as fraudulent. Italian, Slovenian and Croatian interior ministers met near Croatian-Slovenian border to discuss border checks and border police cooperation related to unauthorized immigration. The ministers met in the town of Bizet 3 months after Italy reinstated police checks at the border in its northeast, suspending the free movement normally allowed within most of the European Union under the Schengen Treaty. Immigration has been a hot-button issue in Europe since 2015, when more than 1 million people arrived across the Mediterranean Sea. The Western Balkans route thus accounted for over a quarter of the illegal crossings at the EU's borders in this period. We're heading for a short break, but still to come on this edition of DD India News Hour, British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak faces a major parliamentary showdown on Wednesday over Rwanda asylum plan. A nature photographer captured the largest iceberg in the world. And in Canada, extreme cold turns boiling water to steam, freezes cracked eggs.
Welcome to Jaipur.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India News Hour. Let's get you more international updates. South Korea has sanctioned 2 individuals, 3 entities and 11 ships linked to North Korea's nuclear and missile programs. The sanctions announcement comes days after North Korea fired a new intermediate range solid fuel hypersonic missile, which South Korea and the United States strongly condemned as a serious violation of UN Security Council resolutions. Seoul's foreign ministry said the newly blacklisted targets have chiefly been involved in illegal energy smuggling at the sea. The nuclear envoys of Japan, United States and South Korea are scheduled to hold talks in Seoul on Thursday. Meanwhile, North Korea's foreign minister has lauded the camaraderie ties with Russia on Tuesday. Ko Soon-hui said this as she and her Russian counterpart held rare talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Both of them briefed Putin on the results of their talks earlier in the day. They also exchanged views on bilateral relations and the situation in Northeast Asia. Earlier, during her talks with Lavrov, North Korea's hailed progress on implementing agreements struck during Kim's visit to eastern Russia last September. She also mentioned that top leader Kim Jong-un has invited President Putin to visit the DPRK at a convenient time. North Korean foreign minister's visit comes as the 2 countries have drawn closer since the beginning of Russia's military campaign in Ukraine. DD India correspondent Andrew Wood joins us with more from Hong Kong. Andrew, you've just given a broad outline of the North Korean foreign minister's visit to Russia and her meetings there. Can we get more from you? Help us understand the context and the timing of these meetings and how important has been the meeting?
I think it's an important meeting. North Korea and Russia have grown a lot closer since Russia invaded Ukraine. I mean, in a way, it's a bit embarrassing that Russia has had to go to North Korea and ask them to supply missiles and ammunition to use in Ukraine. At the same time, though, it's quite good news for North Korea to be taken seriously in that way. And Russia seems to be quite helpful, or it seems to be prepared to be quite helpful to North Korea in North Korea's ballistic missile, nuclear program and rocket program. And this does raise questions, though, about Russia's, sincerity in the United Nations Security Council. Because North Korea is banned by many measures from the United Nations, including measures from the United Nations Security Council, of which Russia is a member, from developing nuclear weapons, from firing rockets. And yet it seems to be that Russia is prepared to help North Korea develop its rockets, and even to the extent, as you were saying, possibly even putting a North Korean astronaut on a Russian mission to space.
All right, Andrew, also we see that South Korea has sanctioned individuals, entities and ships linked to North Korea. This is not something new, but at the same time, we see North Korea remains unfazed by the criticism or the concerns that have been put forth by international world as well. What do you make of how would these developments further shape when we talk of the current situation in the Korean Peninsula?
Well, sanctions haven't worked so far to deter North Korea from developing nuclear weapons and developing rockets and missiles. I think these days sanctions on, firstly, I'm amazed that there's anybody left or any organizations left in North Korea for South Korea to sanction. Relations have been getting worse again over the past year. North Korea has now said that it sees South Korea not as a country to be reunited with, to have unification, but as its prime enemy. So I think this is symbolic by South Korea. Don't forget also that there's an election in South Korea later this year. Of course, there's also an election in America, South Korea's main ally. And so it's interesting seeing how the scene is being set for those elections. I doubt very much that whoever wins the South Korean election will want to move closer to North Korea anytime soon.
All right, Andrew, we'll leave it here. Thank you so much for joining in with those details. And after his Iowa victory, Donald Trump appeared in a federal court in New York on Tuesday for the second time in his bid to deny accusations that he defamed writer E. Jean Carroll, who accused him of sexual assault decades ago. Carroll is seeking no less than $10 million as compensation in damages in a civil suit. It will bring the accusations of sexual assault back into the limelight as he seeks Republican presidential nomination in 2024. The jury will only consider how much Carroll should receive in damages. The U.S. District Court Judge Lewis Kaplan said the trial is expected to last between 3 to 5 days, though Trump said that he wants to testify. Donald Trump and his Republican opponents kicked off a week of campaigning in New Hampshire ahead of the state's nominating contest, a day after Iowans gave him an overwhelming victory in the first vote of the 2024 presidential contest. In a speech after winning all of the Iowa caucuses, Trump mentioned Vivek Ramaswamy, lauding him for coming from a virtually zero recognition and doing a great job. This came after Ramaswamy pulled out of the presidential race and supported Trump's campaign. British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak faces a major parliamentary showdown on Wednesday over his plans to send asylum seekers to Rwanda. The Conservative Prime Minister on Tuesday battled to quell growing dissent over his safety of Rwanda asylum and immigration bill, testing his authority when a general election is on the horizon. Parliament launched 2 days of debate about the scheme. The Conservative rebels, who back changes to close what they say are loopholes in this legislation, will now have to decide whether to back down or join forces with opposition parties to try to defeat the government at the law's final stage in the House of Commons. With an election due later this year, many Conservative lawmakers are fearful of losing their parliamentary seats. In an after effect, Canada's planned curbs on work by international students could spark shortages of temporary workers as employers deal with a tight labour market and wage inflation grappling the economy. Earlier in December last year, Canadian Immigration Minister Mark Miller outlined the measures to address bottlenecks created by a surge in international students blamed for rental shortages. This brought unease in the students who feared of exploitation due to lack of adequate government protection. Ecuador's armed forces have taken patrolling to the country's waterways as part of their efforts to combat criminal organizations. Navy officers looked over the commercial vessels and fishermen navigating near the ports in the Gulf of Guayaquil. These operations provide authorities an opportunity to prevent drugs or illegal substances from being loaded into the vessels headed to Europe. After a wave of violence that struck the South American country, President Daniel Noboa declared a 60-day state of emergency last week, including a nighttime curfew, and designated 22 criminal groups as terrorists. Colombian military strengthened its forces at the border with Ecuador as 43 prisoners remain at large after escaping a prison in northern Ecuador. General Eric Rodriguez said Colombia's army was in close coordination with Ecuadorian military forces to maintain border security. Police and military personnel are present in jails throughout Ecuador after some 200 kidnapped guards and administrative officials were freed from at least 7 prisons over the weekend. Since the state of emergency was declared, security forces have detained more than 1,500 people and have carried out 41 operations against terrorist groups. In Japan, 2 passenger planes were in fact collided at Hokkaido Airport on Tuesday. According to officials at New Chaitos Airport, a Korean airplane clipped a parked Cathay Pacific aircraft while taxiing to a runway on Tuesday. The incident happened around 5:30 p.m. when the Korean airplane with more than 280 passengers and crew members on board was being pushed by a taxiing vehicle ahead of its flight to Seoul. The plane then hit the Cathay Pacific aircraft, which was parked after all its passengers from Hong Kong had disembarked. Nobody was injured in the incident. Also, no fire or fuel leak was reported. Korean air officials say the towing vehicle skidded on the snowy tarmac, causing the incident. U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin's aide has asked the ambulance to keep its lights and sirens off during 1st January call to 911, after which he was hospitalized immediately due to health complications post his prostate cancer treatment. The secrecy about Austin's health had caused political uproar in the U.S., accusing him with dereliction of duty. President Biden said he had confidence in Austin despite this lapse of judgment. The Defense Department's Inspector General's office will begin a review this month of the handling of Austin's hospitalization. He will perform his duties remotely before returning full-time to the Pentagon to resume his duties. In what was recorded as second volcanic eruption on the peninsula of Reykjanes in recent weeks, the site of volcanic eruption in the outskirts of Grandavik in Iceland appeared to calm down. Although authorities and geologists warn of persisting danger, officials warned that new fissures could emerge anytime, adding that magma continued to flow underground and it was too early to declare the eruption over. All right, let's take a look at other stories making it to the headlines from across the world. More than 200 ancient pre-Hispanic artifacts have been brought back to Peru from various international institutions and collectors around the globe. In an effort to reclaim smuggled historical items, some of these objects are more than 2,000 years old, with the oldest dating back to 200 BC. Tickets went on sale for visitors wanting, as part of an ongoing trial to check the growing number of tourists and day trippers. A one-day ticket costs $5.45 and will be valid from 8:30 in the morning to 4 p.m. local time, with penalty ranging between $54 to $326. This will come into force from April 25th, which is a national holiday in Italy. A nature photographer captured the world's largest A23A iceberg, which is drifting past the northern tip of the Antarctic Peninsula, aided by strong winds and currents. The iceberg, which was once stranded after its base became stuck on the Weddell Sea floor, has been drifting off West Antarctica's Filchner-Ronne ice shelf since 1986. The satellite images show the iceberg's movement. We're heading for a short break, but still to come on this edition of DD India News Hour, with second day of rituals being conducted in Ayodhya. Last day preparations to ornament the city continue ahead of the grand consecration of the Ram Temple. Prime Minister Narendra Modi's native village, Vadnagar in Gujarat, has caught the fancy of archaeologists. Why? We tell you ahead. An ice skating competition was organized in the Indian state of Himachal Pradesh, but with a twist. Stay with us to get the details.
always welcoming. The vibe of Punjab is larger than life. Warm up to grandeur that's beyond compare. And history that's dotted with tales of bravery. Smiling soul of India, where music, art, cuisine and culture comes together to create an unforgettable impression. Punjab is all set to win your hearts with its unique and colorful extravaganza.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India News Hour. A quick relook at the top stories once again. Qatar, France broker deal to get aid medication to civilians, hostages in Gaza. US welcomes the announcement. Pakistan says Iran violated airspace after its missiles targeted 2 terrorist bases, killing 2 children. Warns the incident could have serious consequences. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi will inaugurate important infrastructure projects related to ports, shipping and waterways in Kerala. And energized Indian squad is all set to finish the last T20 series before the ICC Men's T20 World Cup in style, as Men in Blue will take on Afghanistan today. All right, up next we tell you about Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's 2-day visit to southern Indian state of Kerala. This morning, he offered prayers at Triprayar Sri Ramaswamy Temple in Thrissur district of southern state of Kerala. Though the various forms of Lord Vishnu are worshipped in different ways across the state, the Sri Rama Temple in Triprayar stands unique as it is the only temple in the state dedicated to Lord Ram, that too as the king. Prime Minister Modi is on a 2-day visit to Andhra Pradesh and Kerala. The Prime Minister is on a 2-day visit to Andhra Pradesh and Kerala, and he will be inaugurating a number of infrastructural and development projects today, later in the day in Kerala. And here we see him offer prayers this morning at Triprayar Sri Ramaswamy Temple in Thrissur district of southern state of Kerala. Earlier, Prime Minister Modi visited Guruvayur temple. He reached the temple premises and offered prayers in traditional attire. The Guruvayur temple is dedicated to Lord Guruvayurappan, and it is one of the most important places of worship for Hindus in Kerala and Tamil Nadu, and is often referred to as the Guloka Vaikuntha, the holy abode of Vishnu on earth. And as we told you, later in the day, Prime Minister will be inaugurating 3 major infrastructure projects worth more than 40 billion rupees related to ports, shipping and waterways sector. These major infrastructure projects are in line with Prime Minister's vision to transform India's ports, shipping and waterways sector and build capacity and self-sufficiency in it. With the commissioning of these 3 projects, the nation's shipbuilding and repair capacities, as well as growth of energy infrastructure, including ancillary industries, will get a boost. The projects will also boost EXIM trade, reduce logistics costs, drive economic growth, build self-reliance, and create numerous domestic and international business opportunities. We now get to all the buzz which is being generated in the build-up to the consecration ceremony of the Ram Temple in India's holy city of Ayodhya on the 22nd of this month. The temple town wore a festive look on Tuesday with special rituals including Dashrath Mahal. These were organized, marking the start of an event that will culminate with the opening of the Ram temple on January 22nd. 121 priests chanted Sanskrit hymns and performed Vedic rituals. The designated host appointed by Temple Trust, Sri Ram Janmabhoomi Tirth Kshetra, conducted the atonement ceremony. On Wednesday, a procession will carry the idol of Lord Ram in his childlike form to Ayodhya, with devotees carrying Saryu water in Mangal Kalash en route to the temple. As the date for consecration ceremony of the Ram temple in Ayodhya comes closer, travel portals in India are seeing a jump in searches and bookings, not just for Ayodhya, but across religious places. Among the celestial hotspots, Ayodhya emerges as the reigning star. This surge in spiritual tourism not only signifies a growing interest in India's sacred sites, but also underscores Ayodhya's newfound prominence on the global spiritual map. In the series, India's Civil Aviation Minister Jyotiraditya Scindia and Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath virtually flagged off flight services from Ayodhya to Bengaluru and Ayodhya to Kolkata. Pilgrims from all across the country are set to visit the city for the consecration ceremony of the Ram temple on January 22nd. In the last 9 years, India's Uttar Pradesh has become an important state in the field of air connectivity. And preparations for the inauguration of the Ram temple in Ayodhya are in full swing, and the fervour is just going to escalate as Ram Leela depicting the life of Lord Ram is being organized in Ayodhya. As the consecration ceremony is slated for January 22nd, individuals lit up earthen lamps along the serene banks of Saryu River, engaging in the age-old tradition to symbolize the spiritual significance of the upcoming ceremony. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi has shared a last verse recorded in the melodious voice of late singer Lata Mangeshkar. Remembering Lata Mangeshkar, Prime Minister tweeted that as the nation awaits 22nd January with great enthusiasm, one of the people who will be missed is our beloved Lata Didi. Depicting the temple in Ayodhya, along with intricately crafted idols of Lord Ram and others, Mamta Goel, an artist from Meerut, is showcasing her devotion through her unique artwork featuring sculptures and idols of Lord Ram and the Ram temple on leaves. She is aspiring to showcase her creation at the consecration ceremony on January 22nd in Ayodhya. All right, let's take a look at weather updates from across India now. Many states of North and Central India are in the grip of dense fog. For the last 24 hours, dense fog has been prevalent in many parts of Uttar Pradesh, Haryana, Chandigarh, Delhi, Punjab and some parts of North Rajasthan and North Madhya Pradesh. Light rain has been recorded at many places over parts of southwest Uttar Pradesh and southeast Haryana and eastern parts of Punjab. The Meteorological Department has predicted that dense fog will persist in North India for the next 5 days. Cold day to severe cold day conditions are likely to continue in many places of North India, in which the temperature may increase after the next 2 days. Aditya Srivastav, DD India correspondent, tells us more.
Due due to the western disturbance on western Himalayan region, cold wave and cold day condition is continuing in the North India states like Punjab, Haryana, Delhi, and other some part of Uttar Pradesh. In Punjab and Haryana, some of cities are witnessing under the 4 degrees Celsius, under the number of 4 degrees Celsius, the temperature reduced. My department officials said that no change will go going on next 4 to 5 days. The fog, dense fog or very dense fog condition is also continues in north and central India, we can say. So visibility problem is also facing by the people who are driving on the roads. There are some trains are also get late. But yes, this is good news for the people who are traveling on the aviation. No flight delay. We can say in some of the cities, local administration also declared that also changed the school timing of some of the cities of like Haryana. In central India, we can talk about the Bhopal, Indore, Gwalior, Jabalpur. So we can say there will be no change for next 4 to 5 days, like dense fog situation, like cold wave situation. Cold day situation will be continued for next few days. Local administration also changed the timing of the schools. That the schools are start from 10 a.m. not in early morning. Those who are not in the those who are staying on the roads, local administration trying to stay on the shelters. Bones are also some bonfire is also arranged by the local administration. Doctors also advised to stay at the home. Not if there is no emergency, please don't get out from the home. So we can say this is the situation of not only central India, but yes, North India also.
India's distinctive and creative places representing various cultures have never failed to mesmerize domestic and global tourists. One such place is Alpana Gram, a small village in northeastern state of Tripura near the Indo-Bangla border, nestled in the midst of the nature. The village is gradually becoming an upstart tourist attraction. It features narrow roads with mud houses decorated with images and abstract paintings distinct in nature. During the festival of Makar Sankranti, villagers beautify their homes with traditional alpana, that is an ancient Bengali tradition of hand paintings, geometrical or freehand motifs using a paste of rice powder. The tourists are also attracted due to its mouth-watering local delicacies like pitha. A quick look at other stories making it to the headlines from across India. The remains of a 2,800-year-old human settlement have been discovered in Prime Minister Narendra Modi's native village, Vadnagar in Gujarat. A joint study by the Indian Institute of Technology, Kharagpur, and Archaeological Survey of India has discovered evidence of the full-fledged human settlement. The authorities have unearthed more than 100,000 remains so far. Republic Day parade rehearsals are in full swing in India's capital, Delhi. The parade is underway at Kartavya Path from Vijay Chowk to India Gate. India will be celebrating its 75th Republic Day on 26th of January. French President Emmanuel Macron will be the chief guest for the Republic Parade this year. The much-awaited Jagannath Temple Heritage Corridor project at Puri in the Indian state of Odisha will be open to the public on 17th of January. Lord Jagannath Temple is one of the oldest temples of the Hindus and one of the 4 holiest temples in India. The Temple Heritage Corridor has been built to enhance the visual connection between devotees and the shrine. On the birth anniversary of the 10th Sikh Guru, Guru Gobind Singh Ji, celebrations began in Golden Temple, Amritsar of the Indian state of Punjab. This is the 357th birth anniversary of the 10th Sikh Guru. The Gurdwara was decorated beautifully with colourful flowers as people thronged in large numbers to seek blessings. Fitch Ratings has said that India is poised to remain one of the fastest growing economies in the world in the next few years. The rating agency has also affirmed India's long-term foreign currency issuer default rating at BBB with a stable outlook. The financial rating agency has also made an upward revision to India's growth forecast from 6% in May last year to 6.9% for fiscal year ending March 2023. A fancy dress ice skating competition was organized in the Indian state of Himachal Pradesh. This year, the organizers have good sessions as clear weather has provided skating climate for them. Over 100 boys and girls participated in the event. The local residents and the students enjoyed the charm of over a century-old Shimla Ice Skating Club. A quick break ahead, but still to come on this edition of DD India News Hour. Bill to avert a partial US government shutdown beginning this weekend clears the first procedural hurdle in the Senate. Second seed Satwik and Chirag to face world number 25 Fan Zheng and Fan Shi Li of Taipei in their opening round of India Open Badminton tournament in Delhi. And Indian women's hockey team storms into the semi-finals of the FIH Hockey Olympic Qualifiers 2024.
We just don't bring you the news as it unfolds. We get to the heart of the matter.
We don't just present facts. We demystify complex social, political and economic events.
We break stories that shape the world's present and future because you deserve the truth.
I am Tanvi Taneja from New Delhi.
I'm Ollie Barrett from London.
I'm Nick Harper from Washington, D.C.
Join us on DD India Global Monday to Friday at these times.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India News Hour. Time now to get you updates from the world of business. Indian telecommunication giants Reliance Jio expressed interest in expanding operations in Sri Lanka. Jio Platforms, among 3 other entities, expressed interest in acquiring government's stake in Sri Lanka Telecom, the island nation's state-owned telecommunication company. Colombo had invited proposals from potential investors in November last year as it decided to divest its stake in the national telecom services provider. U.S. stocks declined on Tuesday after mixed earnings from Morgan Stanley and Goldman Sachs pressured banks. Moreover, sell-offs in Boeing and Apple weighed on S&P 500. The index declined by 0.37%, whereas Nasdaq was lowered by 0.19% and Dow Jones Industrial Average declined by 0.62%. The U.S. Senate on Tuesday took the first step towards passing a bill to keep the government funded into March. In a 68-13 vote, the upper chamber advanced a bill that will serve as the vehicle for the stopgap measure known as a continuing resolution. It would extend government funding deadlines to March 1st and March 8th to give both chambers time to approve longer-term funding. The vote will put the Senate on track to pass the continuing resolution before Friday. If passed, it will be the third short-term spending deal that Congress has passed since September last year. Thousands of people attended a protest in Cologne in Western Germany against the far right on Tuesday. The protest is one of the several over the last few days in Germany. Members of the far right opposition party, Alternative for Germany, had attended a meeting where expelling citizens with foreign ethnic backgrounds was discussed. Protesters attending the protest in Cologne said that they were worried about the increasing rise of right-wing ideology in Germany, with one calling for the government to do something. The AfD is soaring in polls ahead of regional and European elections this year. Up next, we'll get you sports updates. Talking of cricket, energized Indian squad is all set to finish the last T20 series before the ICC Men's T20 World Cup in style, as Men in Blue will take on Afghanistan today. With the series in the bag, Rohit Sharma-led side will look to experiment as the bench players look to make a case for their inclusion in the World Cup squad. On the other hand, Afghanistan will try to salvage some pride in the final encounter. India's world number 2 and Asian Games gold medalists Satwik Sairaj Ranki Reddy and Chirag Shetty will be seen in the doubles action. Apart from them, the country's men's double squad at the India Open consists of M.R. Arjun and Dhruv Kapila, as well as Sai Prateek and Krishna Prasad Garga. Also, Kidambi Srikanth, Kiran George and Satish Karunakaran are also part of India's men's single squad at the event. The Indian women's hockey team stormed into the semi-finals after a splendid 5-1 win against Italy. Udita, Deepika, Salima Tate and Navneet Kaur scored winning goals for India. In the next hurdle towards winning a Paris Olympic berth, India will take on table toppers of Pool A, Germany, in the semi-finals on 18th of January, while in the other semi-final, USA will take on Japan. India's Sumit Nagal has created history as he became the first Indian to reach the second round of the Australian Open after 11 years. The Indian #1 tennis star outclassed 31st seeded Alexander Bublik in straight sets 6-4, 6-2, 7-6 to progress into the second round of the prestigious tournament. After the historic win, Sumit Nagal shared his feelings with DD India. Let's listen in.
I was keeping my focus very narrow, trying to focus on myself as much as possible. Of course, you know there's a score behind you, you know what is going on. But I was really trying hard to do the things that I was supposed to do on the court and keep the tactic, keep working on the tactics. It's a very proud and happy moment, I would say. Probably my second time in my career that I made a second round of a slam. Beating a seed for the first time. It was a very good match. I'm happy the way I could perform today.
Olympic tennis champion Alexander Zverev won his opening match at the Australian Open. The six-seeded beat fellow German Dominik Kopfer 4-6, 6-3, 7-6, 6-3 in a night match at Melbourne's Margaret Court Arena. 11th-seed Casper Ruud advanced to the second round of the Australian Open, beating Spaniard Albert Ramos Vinolas for 6-1, 6-3, 6-1 at Melbourne Park. Ruud will play the Australian Max Purcell next. Kazakh Elena Rybakina, world #3 seed, won against Karolina Pliskova 7-6, 6-4 to advance to the second round of the Australian Open at Melbourne Park. Rybakina will play Russian Anna Blinkova next. Emma Raducanu returned to Grand Slam action in emphatic fashion, comfortably beating American Shelby Rogers 6-3, 6-2 to move into the second round of the Australian Open. Victoria Azarenka will face off against Danish rising star Clara Tauson in the second round of the 2024 Australian Open on Thursday. Azarenka sealed a 6-1, 4-6, 6-3 win, breaking her opponent's serve in the final game of the match. Iga Swiatek defeated former champion Sophie Kennan in her first-round match, securing a 7-6, 6-2 win. Despite a strong start from the American, Swiatek showcased her problem-solving skills and resilience to storm into the second round. Bangladesh all-rounder Nasir Hussain has been banned from all cricket after accepting charges of breaching the ICC anti-corruption code. Hussain was charged by the ICC in September last year, admitted to 3 charges and has been handed a 2-year ban with 6 months suspended. Hussain will be free to resume international cricket on 7th of April 2025, provided he satisfies the conditions in rest to the suspended part of the sanction. Indian teenager Pragnanda beat reigning world champion Ding Liren in the 4th round clash. With this win, Pragnanda also leapfrogged over 5 times world champion Vishwanathan Anand as the country's top-ranked chess player in the FIDE's live ratings with a rating of 2,748.3. Vishwanathan Anand is currently at 2,748. Pragnanda has also become the second Indian after Anand to defeat a reigning world champion in classical chess. Liverpool residents experienced snowy landscapes due to snowfall, causing traffic and travel disruptions. Shop openings were delayed due to adverse conditions. A Met Office weather warning for snow and ice remains in place for the Merseyside region until midnight. That's it in this edition of DD India News Hour. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X and also Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Preeti Kaur signing off, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour.